pleasure to be here with you, Erna, Carlos, Sedenka, James, and obviously Professor Steer, and the people who are following us this morning. I think the challenge that we all face is that, yes, we have been dealing, in fact, with a pandemic that has affected the economy, employment, and even has produced effects, negative effects, on the way we move towards the 2030 agenda. But I think something that we realized since the beginning is that we had to manage the crisis without losing, also very important. And definitely, I think we all have to be clear that climate action is something that cannot be put aside, even though you're facing the pandemic. And we're clear that the world has been producing 51 billion tons of CO2 per year. And what the pandemic has demonstrated is that even though we changed the human interaction for a year, the effects on the emissions has not been substantial. That means the action has to be bolder, faster, and you need to integrate this with a big commitment. So we defined that we will be getting to Glasgow with reducing 51% of our greenhouse gases emissions by that year. We said that we want to reach carbon neutrality by 2050, but we have to be nature positive. And especially in a country that is the second country with more biodiversity after Brazil, and especially considering that 50% of our soil is tropical jungle and that 35% of our soil is Amazonic land, we definitely have to expand protected areas. We have to promote the restoration of ecosystems that have been affected, and we need to move forward with planting something close to 180 million trees by August next year. That has been part of the agenda. But all that takes resources, and all that needs to be balled on the reform process. We said clearly that we wanted to do the most important social and fiscal reform in this century in Colombia, and it was approved by Congress last week. What are we doing with that? Increasing income by 1.8% of GDP on a structural basis, but at the same time, we're, for the first time in Colombia, having free public university education for the emerging middle class and the poorest of the poor. We're subsidizing 25% of the minimum wage to hire youngsters between 18 and 28. That is the equivalent of paying for the Social Security. We have a basic income that will last until December 2022 to support the lowest income families. We're talking about more than 3 million households in Colombia. And definitely, we're doing on the environmental side the 5 biggest, boldest actions in Colombia's history. Expanding renewables, non-conventional renewables, moving forward with clean mobility, extending the protected areas, improving the circular economy, and something that in our case, it's also making a difference, creating nature-based solutions and making the commitment of 30 by 30. And if I may connect this with this meeting, what we have seen today is the boldest move ever by philanthropy around the world to mobilize $5 billion that will be used worldwide to protect ecosystems. So Colombia has the agenda, faces the pandemic, but has put nature conservation as a cornerstone of human and national development.